Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. The complete leaks for chapter 1064 of One Piece has just dropped, and so we're going to talk about all the events of this great upcoming battle between Teach and Law, and we're also going to look a bit deeper into this great mystery that hides in Kuma's past. But before we dive into our leaks, if you're new to the channel or even if you've watched a bunch of our videos, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like and even subscribe and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and motivates us to make more content. And if you'd like to help us out in a bigger way, consider sharing this video or one of your favorites with your friends. But without further ado, let's get into these leaks of chapter 1064. So my friends, our chapter opens up with Teach still riding on top of Stronger and Doc Q, and he tells Law that there is no point in running away from him. And while preparing an attack, Law tells Beppo to go back to the Polar Tang, which is of course the name of their submarine ship. Shortly after that, he orders Shachi and Penguin to go underneath the water, so the two pirates obey their captain, and then we see Teach ready to use a big attack. But Law is quicker in the confrontation, and using an amputation attack first, he manages to cut Stronger in half, causing Teach and Doc Q to fall from the heights where they were at. But while falling, Teach is impressed with Law's technique. Teach remarks saying that it was a different power than what he had heard from other people who had witnessed Law fight, and then he asks him if this was a technique from an awakened devil fruit. Still in mid-fall, Teach uses a animenomi attack called Grash, sending a huge shockwave at Law's pirates. Now they're absolutely stunned that Teach is using the animenomi in the middle of the air, but because of this shock, it costs them precious seconds and they get knocked down by the impact of the Quake fruit. Doc Q gets angry, wondering if Stronger had just been killed because of Law's cut, and so he next uses the power of his devil fruit, throwing exploding apples towards all the pirates. Shachi, who is in the water, uses attack with his voice, sending a shockwave towards the apples, making them explode in the air, and Doc Q is shown surprised. Shachi then tells Teach's pirates to never underestimate them. They grew up in the extremely cold waters of the Cold Blue. And then Shachi and Penguin move swimming towards Teach's ship to make it dive. And then Shachi continues, saying that Teach's pirates were not meant to think that they were capable of beating them in a naval battle, as they could easily sink their ship. Next, on the surface, Beppo warns Jean Bart that there's an enemy sniper 3 hours away from his position. And we then see Jean Bart heading in the indicated direction, defending Law from getting hit from fire from Van Augur. Jean Bart stands proudly, saying that he'll protect his captain, and we see Law behind him using his crew, while Van Augur tells Jean Bart that his guard is quite impressive, that he was even able to resist one of his own projectiles. Inside the croom Law had just created, he extends his sword towards Teach's belly, managing to pierce it, and Teach doesn't seem to understand what's going on. But next, Law uses his shockwile attack, causing Teach to start bleeding. Van Augur, in his kind of stoic mannerism, looks at his captain and says that this is what happens when he underestimates his enemies. And then he uses the power of his warp fruit to teleport towards his captain. Closer to his captain, Van Augur then asks Teach if they should return to the ship. But Teach tells him not to be ridiculous. After all, he was Blackbeard. The only option he had was to move forward. As the fight continues, Law then questions Teach and wonders if all of his pirate crew had the abilities of a devil fruit. And Teach answers with a laugh while also coughing because the attack he had just taken to his stomach. Law says that Teach's pirates are gonna be at a disadvantage at sea. But Teach retorts, saying that he considers this an advantage because the devil fruit can overcome anything. But then we see Teach's ship getting destroyed. The scene then shifts to inside Teach's ship, where we see his crew members all shouting that they're under attack, while another crewman says that it looks like Law's crew is gonna sink them, and that no one had warned them that these pirates were extremely resourceful in the water. We then see Shachi and Penguin, along with the submarine, attacking Teach's ship in the water. And then the scene switches back to inside Teach's ship, where we see two pirates protecting a prisoner. One of the pirates says that although the ship is taking damage, they would win this fight because their captain, after all, was Blackbeard. And then the prisoner chimes in to say something, revealing to us their true identity. The prisoner being watched over is none other than Charlotte Pudding, Big Mom's daughter. And we see her saying that if Big Mom were still alive, they wouldn't be chatting right now. One of the pirates, though, starts to laugh. And through his laughter, he says that their captain was currently fighting one of the pirates that had taken Big Mom's life. But of course, if the old legends were still alive, the new era that they were going to build would be impossible to make happen. Switching back once again to the fight between Law and Teach, this time we see a clash of their two abilities happening. Law is using his Kroom again to stretch his sword and attack Teach, while Teach uses his Gura no Mi to prevent Law's attack from hitting him. But then something catches Law off guard and makes him quite surprised and amazed, because Teach next opens up his hand, causing darkness to cover it. And then he uses his Yami no Mi power, using a technique called the Black Vortex. The scene then changes again, and now we're at a Navy base, and it's said that a great conflict is happening on a winter island. The Blackbeard pirates are fighting against the Heart pirates. In the panel, we see this information is being relayed through a transponder snail from a Marine who is receiving this information, and listening to it is Fleet Admiral Akainu, who appears to be quite angry as he's receiving this news. With a frustrated and angry look on his face, he says that the only thing he can do at the moment is to wait until the battle is over. And then he says that being a fleet admiral never gets any easier, ending the conversation between the two Marines. We then see in the next panel the phrase "meanwhile" at Egghead, and we see the pacifista that had been attacking Luffy's group earlier standing still and confused, and a voice says that the pacifista suddenly stopped attacking them. Luffy then asks Bonnie if she couldn't have given him a better age, and we see an old Luffy, child Bonnie, an old Chopper, and a child Jinbei. And Luffy tells her that he knows how she feels, but that wasn't the real Kuma. Luffy continues and says that if he hadn't attacked the pacifista, everyone could have been hurt. And Bonnie seems to understand what Luffy's getting at. And then a regretful, kind of sad expression for having prevented Luffy from fighting the pacifista kind of comes over her face. We next see Chopper apologizing to Bonnie and kind of feeling sad for her history with Kuma. And Jinbei, of course, says it makes sense that if Kuma had been human, then there was definitely a possibility he could have had a family. Chopper next asks Bonnie if he can be returned to his normal age, and Jinbei keeps talking to Bonnie so she won't think too badly of it. But he says that he had knowledge and had heard of Kuma's past, and that he knows that Kuma was the former evil king of the Sorbet Kingdom, and that he was banished by the villagers and became a pirate after being banished. Bonnie is shown as if she doesn't know how to answer, so she just stays quiet. And Jinbei goes on to say that after these events, he ended up joining up with the Revolutionary Army, but was later caught by Marines and had been sentenced to death. But since Vegapunk had been impressed by his physical strength, he sought a way out of it for Kuma. Kuma was allowed to stay alive, but Vegapunk would be able to use him as a guinea pig for his experiments, allowing Vegapunk to eventually transform him into a cyborg and even create clones of him. While continuing to talk, Bonnie starts rummaging through a nearby trash bin and finds one of Vegapunk's discarded tools or weapons. Jinbei goes on to say that after becoming a cyborg, Kuma came back as a warlord of the sea. Bonnie says that she understood his reasons for becoming a warlord, but the part about becoming a cyborg was something her father just wouldn't do. Becoming a cyborg would be a fate worse than death. Bonnie next presses a button on the thing that she found on the ground, and it turns into a lightsaber. Jinbei questions her about how many different sins the tyrant Kuma had already committed, but Bonnie takes the lightsaber and hits the trash. With a pained look on her face, Bonnie, enraged, hits the trash can and says that her father was never a tyrant. Bonnie says that he'd hated the world government and he would have never cooperated with them, and somehow they managed to force him to join forces. Luffy is shown surprised by the lightsaber, saying it was so cool, and Chopper tells him that this must be a junkyard of the broken remains of Vegapunk's work, yet this one still works. Bonnie continues talking to Jinbei, saying that Vegapunk was the type of person who took the lives of others, hiding behind his scientist facade. And she also said that her father had told her that he belonged to a special race, but that's no reason to use him as an experiment. As Bonnie changes them all back to their proper age, we see Luffy supporting all of Bonnie's words, while Chopper is surprised to hear that Kuma belonged to a special different race. Then the scene changes to the crew on the Thousand Sunny, and we see the ship is being carried up into the sky by the big robot, and some very excited expressions as the robot is flying. And Lilith starts to explain exactly how the robot was indeed flying. She says that the jet booster on the back of the Vega Force 1 is a piece of equipment that uses propulsion and anti-gravity, so it gives the robot the ability to fly. But right now, this is only possible because of the special air conditions of where they were, and it was because of this Lilith intended to make this robot to be able to fly anywhere around the world. And as the structures in the sky are revealed, the Straw Hats arrive in Egghead, the island of the future. Where they get there, they're extremely happy because they realize that this island looks just like one of the Sky Islands they had visited while on Skypiea. So next, all the crew members on the Sunny go to their cabins to change clothes, and everybody comes back out in futuristic clothes just like we saw the other part of the crew that's been separated. The only one not sporting a new futuristic look is Sanji, who has his outfit very similar to Jinbei's, but everyone appears to be really happy for the new outfits, saying that they were light and comfortable and warm. As we head to the end of the chapter, we see a conversation between Punk 01 Shaka with some mysterious character, and Shaka says that being a genius also means that you can see your own future. But the person asks what were they talking about, and Shaka answers, saying that he's probably gonna lose his life soon. But the voice retorts, telling them not to be ridiculous, and what they were saying was not funny. But Shaka comes back at the mysterious voice, saying that he only wished he heard what he had to say. And then we reveal who this other person was having the conversation with Shaka, being none other than the leader of the revolutionaries, Monkey D. Dragon. And with this shocking last panel, this brings us to an end of chapter 1064. Please remember that next week, after our upcoming chapter, we're going to be on a break, so we're going to have a bit more time to analyze this chapter and bring in some new ideas. But until we do that, right now we'd love to know what you think about it. When do you think the two sets of the crew are going to meet up? From the panels in the leaks, we looked like they were about at the same height in the Science Island. Next, who do you think has the advantage in the battle between Law and Blackbeard? And along with that, what do you think the Marines' play is going to be? Do you think they're really going to sit back and wait to find out who wins? Or do you think they might go in and swoop in to get a double kill? And finally, why do you think Dragon is on Egghead Island? A lot of people in the community have wondered when Luffy might get a meetup or a reunion or even meet altogether his father. So do you think he's just there for Vegapunk or some bigger reason? Let us know what you think in the comments below. So as we wrap up our leak video for chapter 1064, I'd like to thank all of you so much for watching the video all the way up to the very end. Please make sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like and hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. Hope to see you all in our next video. Let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.